the drone sighting or the lights in the sky over New Jersey last year, and so many sightings that it's really no dispute that it happened. The question is, what is it? And the president said that he would tell us. We've never heard. What was that, do you think?
I don't know. And they're having also very similar drone sightings now over in Denmark that actually shut down both Danish airports on Sunday. I mean, it's uh yeah, I mean, and why can't we know about it? And
But
it's
what's your
just, it's
sense? I know that
frankly, it's
you've done a lot on this. I've talked to you off camera, just because you're one of the few people whose judgment on this I trust. There's so much deception on this question. I think parts of it. What's the term they use? It's an op. I think part of the explanation is, but at its core are physical phenomena that have been recorded in such volume at such scale that like something real is happening. And I know you don't really have the final answer on that, but what is your sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, first of all, the government is engaged in extensive disinformation on this topic, and
Yes, yes, they're lying.
that's just all confirmed. Like,
Right.
it's been well documented what they've done. I mean, there's an alien crash retrieval manual that is officially, according to the official story, a total fake, a total fabrication. But I mean, when you look at it, it is extraordinary in its quality of, like, if it is a fake, I mean, complete with like the names of the people who checked it out and those people having been checked out. Who would do that? Like, why would you do that? Well, one story is that it was used as passage material to identify counterintelligence spies in the U.S. intelligence community. But nonetheless, there has been so much government misinformation. Um, there's also been, efforts to. There's also secret, technology projects. I mean, one of the guys that testified at the UAP hearing last week just said that he has seen successful reverse engineering of technologies. um, there's a whole kind of Pentagon technological side of this that many other people have done so much better work on and reporting on than me, Jesse Michaels being one of the leaders of kind of unearthing it. I will say I don't think any of it could all be reduced to hard military hardware, either ours or somebody else's. I'm very confident that there's just way too many cases that don't fit that. I also think that Jacques Vallée has done really some of the most important scholarship on this. I find myself, and he just gave a presentation on it. He's the French character played by Francois Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg, a French researcher who's just sort of a international treasure of UFO, cases. And he's actually gone a very similar direction that you've gone, and I find myself going there a little bit too, which is that there is a spiritual element to this that I don't think is just purely attributable to technology, because the issue is such a gestalt issue. Because if you look at, like, in the classic gestalt, is it an old woman, is it a young woman? Is this a spiritual issue sort of manifesting as sort of some high-tech hardware, or is it some high-tech civilization manifesting as something spiritual? I find myself really gravitating towards these cases, which is also where Vallée encouraged a lot of new research. One of which is my favorite, is this English woman in the countryside who had a UFO sighting in the 50s. And I would dare anyone to watch that. And she describes seeing, she's like a very working class English woman. It's a beautiful interview with her. Done. It's like BBC or somebody, and they just say, describe what you saw. She said she hears this noise. Her two boys are in the front yard. She sees a huge UFO over her house. He asked her to describe it, and she said, "What can I say?" It was like a Mexican hat, like a typical, flying saucer with a dome. Her kids were there seeing it. She swears she saw it. She says there was two people inside, and they were beautiful people with long blonde hair and sort of slightly bigger foreheads, and sort of looking at her. And it ends so interesting, 'cause she says, we told people about this, and then we were ridiculed. And then she said, but it's okay because I know it happened. It's true. And I think I dare people to watch that and come away thinking that she was lying. I don't think she was lying.
Yes.
I also, as you know, I have interviewed a fair number of psychotic people living tragically on the street, and people in psychotic states That's not the kind of story they tell. In fact, I even have I have homeless people I've been interviewing that are meth-induced psychotic, and meth-induced psychosis, talking about aliens, and it's just a lot of word salad and garbled. It's like talking to somebody trying to explain a dream they had. It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So I don't think she lied. I don't think she's capable. I think that most actors are bad actors. I don't think she's capable of having invented that and then persuading her children to lie with her. I think that she had that experience. I don't think she's psychotic. Um, I don't really know if anybody knows if those beings come from a different planet, or they're interdimensional, or they're spiritual, or if they have some other form and they're just manifesting and hologramming like that. I don't know. Um, but I think that the conversation, thanks to, again, people like you and Joe and others, has just widened so that we can see just what a big lie it's been that science has really properly accounted for reality. Science Magazine did a survey of scientists, including natural scientists, and I think it was somewhere around 60 to 80% of natural scientists, I'm talking physics and biology and chemistry, were not able to replicate famous studies in their field. They admitted this in a survey, and then they would ask them, do you still trust your field of science? And they all said yes, but they can't replicate basic scientific experiments. They keep changing their mind on the creation stories, the Big Bang. I think there's sufficient doubts about about human origins. And so, but like that was so taboo. That was so, you couldn't talk about that in polite society. But I do think now we are able to have those conversations. And I do think it's really notable that at this political shift, there is, I think, a spiritual movement. I mean, I'm obviously really into it. Other people in my life are not as excited about it. But for me, I think these experiences, the evidence, or the spiritual side of it, the government cover up, are just huge areas that we should be doing so much more research and investigations and journalism on. I get a little frustrated because I think sometimes, I think the conversation right now in the podcast world and in the conversation is just a lot of people are repeating and speculating about stories that we've kind of heard before or sort of know about, but we haven't put nearly enough pressure on the government to release or unredact the documents that we know exist, to come clean about what they appear to know and are unwilling to tell. There should be a real movement around this, and there should be consequences for members of Congress, because that's information that belongs to all of us. And if there's some evidence of non-human intelligence, or a lot of evidence, my understanding, I'm very confident that there are thousands of high quality videos, photos, sensor data, radar data, a lot that the military is keeping from us and the CIA is keeping from us. And we should be really upset about that. And I think that for me, I think that there's just been a lot of conversations where people go around and round about with the data that we know, but what we're
Right.
missing is the fact that the government is sitting on so much more of it, and I find myself wanting to do more to force it out. And I'm getting frustrated, but I'm a little bit, I think, as you've seen, I'm on the one hand very grateful to this administration and the strong things it's done, on free speech and the disclosure it's done, certainly disclosing so much more than the last administration, but we still need a lot more. There's still so much that needs to be released on Epstein, on COVID origins, the whole COVID pandemic response, on the weaponization of FBI, the continuing rot. I mean, someone at the CIA told us pathological rot at the CIA, and we need to know what's going on with the UAPs. It's just the speculate, like you were saying before, it would be irresponsible not to engage in conspiracy theorizing and speculation, given
Right.
how little information they give to us. And if they were really so concerned about conspiracy theories and speculation and misinformation, then they should be releasing those documents.
Well, of course, they foment conspiracy theories and race hatred because it's a distraction from what they're doing. I mean, when I was younger, living in Washington, and I began to understand that the government was systematically lying across agencies about a couple of things, probably a lot of things, but UAPs were definitely one of them. That became obvious a while ago. And I remember asking, like, what is this? And never getting a straight answer, except people would say, look, it's not, it's destabilizing. It would be destabilizing if the public knew, and like, who wants an unstable country? You know, there's some things that people just aren't ready for, whatever the euphemism they use. But that was the
This
explanation.
is this.
As I got older, I began to, talk to other people and have other thoughts. And one of them was totally possible that the government really does have something to hide, is participating in things that people would not approve of or be shocked to learn. And all of that gets to a question that's never occurred to me till right now, but like, who named America's military headquarters after a pentagram? Like, who thought that was a good idea? And I know you've done a lot of research on that period, the war period. Like, what was that?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is I haven't seen it yet, so I can't evaluate it yet. And I don't know a lot about it, but yeah, I mean, there's a real darkness to the
You
whole
think?
area.
Yeah, let's call
Yeah.
the building that controls nuclear weapons the Pentagon. Huh? I mean, it's sort of like right in your face, right? Or no?
Yeah, I mean, I just haven't looked that much on it. I do know that like a lot of the UFO stuff is very tied in with the occult,
Yeah.
and apparently, Jesse Michaels again apparently did a new documentary on occult. I mean, I'm not vouching if I don't know about it, but I like Jesse occult behaviors within NASA. So very concerning. I don't know what it means. I'm shocked by how little curiosity there is at
Yeah.
a society-wide level. I think that the intellectual life of this country, by which I mean not just the universities, but also the newspapers and the big media companies. That is how censorship was done over the last 80 years. The internet is almost a return to a pre-radio, pre-broadcast period, when people were really free to just print whatever they wanted. The internet is not there, but it's a lot closer to it. We finally get to kind of learn that actually there's all these anomalies around human evolution, around human history, around archaeological sites where things don't seem to add up right, and you start to get people that were called pseudo archaeologists starting to kind of win some arguments publicly. I mean, there's one happening right now around Göbekli Tepe with this guy Jimmy Corsetti, where he's just shown that the people that are supposed to be excavating the site are destroying it, planting trees whose roots will destroy these ancient sites, and also building these really grotesque roofing structures in ways that destroy the site. They're very weird and suspicious. There's just a lot of, we know that a lot of the Tesla information was missing, that, should have shown some very interesting things. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that the relationship with nuclear is one of the most interesting parts of this, because these UAPs, they show up around nuclear sites. I used to work on nuclear a lot, and there would be these drones, these unidentified, they seemed like objects, but unidentified phenomenon around nuclear power sites. The people working at them were often very concerned around public perception of danger, and so they often didn't talk about them. But they've certainly been over Diablo Canyon nuclear plant in California. But when the drones happened in New Jersey, well, we caught them in an open lie. I mean, they just said, John Kirby at one point said something like they had evaluated like 3,000 cases of drone sightings in like 48 hours, which is like absurd. There's no
Yeah.
possibility they did it. And then we started looking, a set of people started looking, and you discover that, in fact, there's been these drone swarms around U.S. military bases. I mean, not a couple either. I mean, I think it was somewhere around 2 or 3 dozen military bases. And there's a lot of evidence that those drones are circling around those moments when there's nuclear weapons in the area. So, I'm skeptical that it's Chinese and Russian, because the drones are engaged in behaviors that I think are very difficult for anybody to do. But I mean, if these objects are behaving in ways that, do appear to be using a different kind of propulsion or anti-gravity, I mean, I'm very skeptical that that's ours, in the sense that it took a huge effort to create the Manhattan Project and to create nuclear weapons. It was a massive, massive endeavor. And so to somehow easily get, or to be able to easily hide reverse engineering, I don't know how you do that. I'm really skeptical that we have it, but it's absurd that we have to just sit around and speculate about it. Like, Like we need, there's basically no transparency. Instead, we have a DoD organization called Arrow, which, as far as I can tell, is part of a deception operation, consistent with the CIA's recommendations to the Robertson panel in the 1950s. That the main thing the U.S. government should do is supposedly debunk the UFOs and to ridicule the people that see them and research them, and worse. There's a lot of threats made to people in this field. I personally find it one of the scariest issues. Um, Trans and UAPs are the two, paradoxically, the scariest issues. And because it just seems like a lot of people really don't want us to know what's going on with it. And President Trump made noises like he was going to reveal something, and Tulsi Gabbard just made some noises that she wanted to get to the bottom of it. But otherwise, Tucker, they just seem like it seems like they want to Jeffrey Epstein the UAP files. I
Yeah, I
would
don't think
say.
there's any. And if you're wondering if there's a spiritual component to the whole thing, if it's about technology and other, I don't know, Martians,
Right.
probably not going to be this kind of response to it. I mean, this just glows with intensity.